Hey, what is up guys? Guitar Rock here, welcome back to another Blue Archive video. Alright, today we'll be doing some tier list. Another tier list for you guys, but this time a little bit different. Now we've done tier list video in the past, talking about general usage of characters in terms of the tier list, but this time we're going to check out something different. Alright, raids tier list. Now I know some of you guys might not be that familiar with raids. In the future we're going to have more and more raids. Right now, so far in global server, we only have access to 3 different raids so far, which is the Shiroko, we also have the Cheesed, and lastly Bina raids, right? But obviously there's more to come, which is Perorotzilla and a few others. But today let's focus on this raids tier list and give you guys an overview of which characters ideally are strong right here. Now, as many of you guys have known, now the 2 main contents of this game are basically either raids or PvP, right? So depending on which one you are focusing on, you might need different characters. Now the meta in Tactical Challenge PvP is going to be much more fixate for now, because there are those few, characters or units that are definitely stronger than others. Total Assault seems to be more free-to-play friendly in a way, and ideally, as a free-to-play player, you want to strive for at least the 10,000 rank right here. Alright, try to get up to this 1200 pyroxenes. That's your goal ideally in every season. And let's have a look at this tier list right here. Now, before we begin, quick shout out to Just 3C. I believe that's the player that made this tier list right here. So let's focus on the top of the top, the cream of the crop, the God tier list. So let's have a look. God tier list is going to be filled with 3 characters right here, which is Koharu, Kotama, and Ako. So let's give you guys an idea and overview of what all these 3 characters are capable of. Now, we already have access to Kotama. I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with what she does, so I'm not going to jump too detailed on her. But Koharu is something that you guys need to pay attention to, and she's going to be probably the next best character, one of the best character to come. Now, quick glance through Koharu's skill set. As you can see, deals damage to enemies and restore allies HP, in a round shape area. Now at 3 costs, this is just crazy. Alright, 3 costs, doing damage and healing at the same time, you can see why she's God tier. Now, not many characters can do both at the same time. Now, some characters can do sort of both, for example, Midori, but hers is not really on the EX skill. Hers is more on the passive, so you can't really control it to a certain extent. So Koharu has this ability, normal skill, she can restore 153% HP to one of her allies when the HP falls below 50%. As you can see, she not only have 1 healing skill, but she has 2. One on the EX skill and one on the normal skill, and her passive basically increase her attack by 26.6%, and lastly the sub skill, every 30 seconds she increase her healing by 41%. Koharu is one of the most flexible unit in the game. Alright, so if you can pull for 1 unit for raids that you want to focus on, Koharu is by far the best character, bar none. Alright, there's just no comparison. The next comparison perhaps is this character right here, as you can see, right next to Kotama right there, and that is none other than Ako. Now, Ako is a character that was recently released in the JP server. As you can see, she's a striker, mystic type on her offense and heavy armor on her defense. Her ability revolves around boosting a particular character to increase their crit rate by almost 40% and crit damage by 73.3% to one particular ally. She's basically giga boosting them using 3 costs. I think this is a very good unit in raids for sure. Alright, normal skill, as you can see, every 45 seconds she restores allies HP by 245%. Passive skill, increase her healing abilities by 26.6%, and the last up skill, increase all allies crit damage by 17.3%. in similar style to Hibiki. So Ako is a really broken character. As you can see, she has everything. She can boost crit damage to everyone, she can heal, she can also giga boost one particular character's crit rate and crit damage to a very high extent, right? So these 3 characters obviously are going to be your focus if you are trying to play raids, and obviously Kotama is something that we all have access to right now, but Koharu is something that you want to look out for. She's going to be very soon. I would say like around end of January, early February, that's when I predict that she will come. And Ako, I'm not sure when she will come. I don't think she will be here that soon. Now, let's talk about the next in the tier list, the top tier in more than one raid. So as you can see, these are the Hibikis, the Cherinos, the Serenas. So let's talk about each of them, perhaps those that are not here yet. So as you can see, we have Hibiki. She's really good. Again, we're not going to touch on her too much. She's one of the best characters in the game, and ideally one of the best characters they want to reroll for. Next to her, surprisingly, Akane. So Akane is a very good strong character. She has 2 cost EX skill. We already have access to her. So definitely, if you haven't built her, you should start building her right now. I don't know, a lot of players seem to sleep on her. Her 2 cost EX skill is just insane. And then right beside her, obviously we have Azusa. I've talked about this a number of times. Let's go through her skill one more time. Azusa is one of the few characters that can actually reach 2000% damage. She does very extremely super high mega damage against one single enemy. 2000% is just insane. Her normal skill has the ability to, deals really high single target damage to a single enemy and also reduce its defense by 24.6%. This makes it extremely good in raids. Passive skill increase crit rate by 26.6%, and the last sub skill, when attacking enemy with debuff status, she deals 88% extra damage, and she can actually debuff the enemy from her normal skill, which reduces enemy's defense. So you can see the correlation of her skills, very good. Her EX skill is a bit on the higher side at 5 cost, but overall she's going to be really good in a lot of raid bosses. The ability to decrease defense and also extremely high modifier on her skill makes her one of the favorites in raids for sure. Now next to Azusa, you can see we have Hanae. Now Hanae is in this list not because of her EX skill. Her EX skill is nothing special. If you look at it, 4 cost, and it does continuous recover for 1 ally. But what makes her very good in raids generally is the sub skill. If you guys are not familiar, she has the ability to increase allies' crit damage by 17.3%. Now usually when you have skills like this is going to make you one of the best raid character, because the longer the raid lasts, this crit damage you're going to be able to boost even more, especially for all your characters, right? Alright, so right next to Hanae, we have Haruna. We've talked about her multiple times on the channel, and also Yori. Now Haruna, Yori, as you can see, both really strong character for sure, each in their own respective raids. Alright, Haruna for special armor and Yori for heavy armor. And then we have Midori. Now Midori is one of the more recently released character, and if you pull for her, she's going to be quite good. But if you skip her, I don't think it's too bad, especially like I mentioned, if you have Yori, and Akane in this list, they can do a lot of things in similar yellow raids as well. And then you can see Cherino right next to both of them. Now I think a lot of people seem to think that Cherino is not that strong, because when it comes to her EX skill, as you can see, it's 7 cost at level 1. But what makes Cherino strong, similar to Hanae, is not in the EX skill, but it's in the sub skill. She has an ability that nobody has, which is cost regen. Now increase cost regen by a certain amount. Cost regen is something that the longer the battle lasts, the more you'll see the benefit of. As you can see, if it goes up to level 10, 511 is quite a lot. And of course additional for each raid winter student in the same formation. So cost regen is something that I believe is unique to her currently. Maybe in the future we'll have more characters that will have this similar ability. So Cherino is something that you want to consider pulling for, and she should be the next unit to come right after the current Aries banner ends. Alright, Mutsuki, Serena, these are 2 very strong raid characters apparently. Now Mutsuki, I'm not really a big fan of her. I think her damage is really lacking, or more likely on her accuracy side. Alright, her damage is fine, AoE, big blast, but usually it always misses. I think she really lacks the accuracy to make it work most of the time, but that's because mine might be underleveled. But Serena, I do agree, she's really strong, 2 cost healer. And then you can see, we have also the regular Shiroko right here, surprisingly. Now I can understand why she's favorable in raids, because she has 2 cost EX skill, so that means you can cycle through her skills easily, no problem whatsoever. Swimsuit Azusa and Swimsuit Yori. Apparently these 2 characters are the best swimsuit characters to obtain if you are looking to focus on raids. Now let's touch on Swimsuit Azusa first. As you can see, deals massive damage to a single enemy, inflicts continuous sort of chill DOT damage. Normal skill, she has the ability to increase her crit damage every 35 seconds. Passive skill, increase her attack, and the last sub skill, every attack has a 30% chance to reduce enemy's defense. As you can see, quite similar to regular Azusa in terms of the debuff for decreasing the defense, but this time this Swimsuit Azusa is in the mystic form. Alright, so she's a blue character, very different in that sense. Now Swimsuit Yori on the other hand, she's an explosion type character, raid type. She deals massive damage to enemies in the round shape area. Normal skill, deals damage against a single enemy and inflicts continuous chill, quite similar. Passive skill, increase her attack, and the last sub skill, when attacking, every attack has 25% chance to inflict additional DOT chill damage. So as you can see, both versions of Azusa, both versions of Yori are very strong characters to have. Alright, if you focus on these two characters, ideally Yori and Azusa, you know, the regular and the swimsuit character version, they are quite high ranks in raids, definitely get used a lot. Now let's move down a little bit in characters that might excel in one raid. You know, unlike the top tier or the god tier, now we have characters that, you know, they are good in one raid, maybe good in some others. So let's talk about Aries first. As you can see, Aries is in this list. She's really good in some special raids, but not as highly sought after compared to like Swimsuit Azusa or Haruna, for example. Like those two are going to be much better mystic characters in general. Alright, and then we have Chinasu. I like Chinasu's healing abilities a bit more than Hanae right here. But like I mentioned, Chinasu doesn't have the passive skill of Hanae, which enables her to give crit damage to allies. Chise, Asuna, alright, again, they are very good characters to have. Slightly lower tier. Don't expect them to be better than Haruna in that sense. We also have Izuna right here, followed by Karin, which is a very good single target enemy. Karin is really strong in Bina, but I don't think she's as good as, for example, Yori in places like the cheese raids. So that's why I can see why she's lower than Yori. It makes sense. Same goes for Maki. These both are more focused on dealing like high massive damage to a single target as opposed to AoE sort of style. And then you can see Momo is right here. Now, I agree that Momo is a little bit less than Midori in terms of meta-wise in raids, because Midori have the ability to heal your allies, while Momo do not have that. And then we have Nehru right here. Nonomi is very good AoE damage, but she doesn't do much single target, so that's why she lacks the damage unlike Yori. Serika, Tsubaki is not bad. You know, she's very good in PvP for sure, but when it comes to raids, tanks are generally not that needed in raids, especially once you reach the higher level. I'm not sure what level you guys are, but once you reach level 70, even 65 above, you're going to start seeing less usage in tanks. Like ideally, once you go higher level and you want to push in the higher ranks, you want to try to complete the raid as fast as possible to achieve the higher score. Like the more, like if you bring a tank, that means you're going to be lacking in damage, that means you're going to take longer to complete a raid. So I can see why Tsubaki is right here. She doesn't provide much damage wise. Shun, alright, she's good for cost regeneration, sort of in a PvP scenario, but in a raid scenario, at this beginning, the starting time, she doesn't really give much. The 3 cost at the beginning is good, but something like Cherino makes more sense because Cherino's one is every few seconds you get that cost regeneration, which covers back up what Shun can only give at the beginning, which is that 3 to 4 cost. Young Shun is here, and then we have Bunny Suit Karin right here, Bunny Suit Nehru, we have Casual Saya, and then we have this girl right here, which is Natsu. Now I've touched on Natsu on my previous video before, where I mentioned about the upcoming units that's to come. Again, she's a tank, so she's similar to Tsubaki in the role of in raids, you don't really need tank that much. And then we have Swimsuit Tsurugi, surprisingly high up here, higher than the regular Tsurugi. Alright, and then we have Hoshino Tomo right here, which is a 1-star yellow character. She's really strong, but she was just released quite recently in the JP server. Swimsuit Hina, we have Aru. So as you can see, Aru is not as sought after compared to something like, I think Azusa just dethrones her. She's not bad, as you can see, she's good in at least one raid, but Azusa is just a better explosion character in terms of the raid type. And Sumaya is right here, I agree. Again, most tanks are in this particular region because of their lag in damage. And last but not least, that's the kimono version of the Chinasu, which was quite recently released as well. These characters, I would say some of them can be replaced easily, but once we move down the slot, these characters are the ones that I'm gonna say you can still build them, but don't expect them to excel that well compared to all the characters above. As you can see, we have the cycling version of Shiroko, we have Akari right here, Ayane is surprisingly here as well, and Hina, unfortunately being a 7 cost EX skill user, it's really hard for her to be good in raids. She's good in PvE like story stages, but in raids where you really need, you know, low cost, high damaging skills, it's just a waste to use her ideally in raids in general. And then we have the regular Tsurugi. Hasunamiku, I'm quite surprised she's not higher actually. Hasunamiku is one of the stronger buffer or supporter classes in terms of the characters that was released in JP. Junko is good in 1 or 2 raids, I do agree. I didn't invest much in her. Amy is surprisingly quite high. I was expecting her to be way lower, but I guess she's here. We have the swimsuit version of Hifumi. Then we have Mari right here, which is a 2-star character. This is the Burger Girl, what's her name again? Izumi, Burger Girl for the summer version. Bunny Azusa, again she's not that sought after. In terms of the 3 Bunny, apparently Karin and Nehru is slightly better. We have Pina right here, also she's good in some of the raids but not exactly top tier compared to the rest. Yuzu is here, Saya is here, Hasumi is here. We have both Shizuko and Shimiko. They are both, you know, relatively useful in the Shirokuro raids. You can use their obstacle to block the objects from moving into your allies. And then you have Yuka right here, hot spring version of the Cherino. And the Swimsuit Mashiro, unfortunately. One thing that surprises me is the Swimsuit Mashiro and the regular Mashiro. I'm quite surprised that they are in such low tier. Like, I never expect them to be that low. Now, Fuka can be used for sure, right? Can be used because now we don't have much options, but in the future, you most likely are going to replace her. Again, this is a raid tier list, and understandably, healers are not super needed, especially if you have something like Koharu, which can do both damage and heal at the same time. Those are the characters you want to look out for in raids. You know, something that can give buff and also heal at the same time. While, you know, Fuka's role is only limited to healing only. Most characters in Blue Archive can still be used one way or another, despite of how bad they are, for sure. But it's just that some characters can do it more efficiently. For example, you can see the God tier, if you invest in those units, they will be used in almost every single raid. So your objective as a free-to-play player, hopefully try and see if you can get them. You don't want to miss out on all those in the God tier, and preferably every single character right here in the top tier as well. Focusing on raids is going to be much more efficient being a free-to-play player compared to focusing on PvP. Alright guys, so that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, subscribe, give this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a nice day. Goodbye.